So you rush the
So
cop, and he's like yelling at you to stop. What happens?
anyways, man, he was like, he kind of like pleads with me to calm down. And I kind of just wanted to check him because of all the shit he was doing to everybody all the time. And so then he wants to talk, and he was like, man, he was like, they were arguing, like they had, how they got a laundry room up there, and everybody in the morning gets up so they can do the laundry before everybody gets up. And he locked the door, man. So this dude would come in to work, he'd take all the salt and pepper out of the thing, he'd take all the chemicals, lock the closet so you can't do anything, and then you got to go ask him, like a power and control thing, right? Hey man, can I get a couple salts? And he'd be like, you can have one salt, just just it was just the dude's way. He would just do things to kind of, you know,
Just a miserable motherfucker, pretty much.
yeah, yeah.
And
So
sometimes, let me say this, right? Sometimes you come across cops, a lot of times, that they just feel like, hey, you're a prisoner, you're a second class citizen. I'm gonna treat you however I want to treat you because I'm the police, and they do that stuff in there, right?
yeah, yeah, and that was him too. But I know he never, I know in my heart he never saw what was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? I know that he never thought. He always thought his word and his thing was gonna be he was gonna be able to do it, for his whole career, and his career got cut short.
He was the king. He wanted to be the ruler.
Yeah, and but like I said, it definitely didn't turn out in his favor. It ended his career. So anyway, so I I get in this argument, getting you square up with him and all this stuff. Well, he starts trying to talk me down, and he tells me, Vandenherk, if somebody told you to jump, would you jump, man? He's like, I can't. And he goes into all this whole spiel. By the time this is calming me down, right? And then I'm like, man, I almost just went there. I'm gonna be lucky to not go to segregation for this shit, right? So, anyways, he's like, look, man, he's like, I can't let the inmates see me and you to get into it like that, me not do something. So he's like, man, just give me it happened early in the morning. I just came back from sweeping the gym. And he's like, I actually just walked in the mod, and he was arguing with some native brothers over the laundry room door. And he was like, get the fuck away from me, get away from my fucking desk, all this stuff. And that's when I walked by and I was like, hey man, why don't you watch your fucking language, man? And that's how it started, right? So, anyways, after we get to the end, he's like, look, man, I can't let the inmates see me and you get into it like that and me not do something. So he's like, man, give me a 3-hour lockdown just till lunch, man. No harm, no foul. So I was like, all right, man. So I went to my room, and I had one of my low life brothers in my room at the time. So I go in there and I wake him up, old school. I wake him up and I was like, man, I almost just boxed with fucking Spalding. That was his name. He's like, what? And the next thing you know, I hear lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. And I look out the window and all the cops are running in. So he goes out after he told me that it was no harm, no foul, he went out to the office. He got me locked into my room, played me, ran out to the office and told them that I threatened him. So they come back to the door and they're like, turn around and cuff up. And I was like, nah, no, go get the team. You're working today, you know? So I barricaded myself in the room, pull out all the stops, lotion the floor, do everything to get battlefield ready. The SWAT team shows up. And they're like, Vandenherk, and like, man, turn around and cuff up. Or we're gonna hit you with the OC spray. And I was like, F you. I told you, man. So they hit me with a can of spray. I make it through the can of spray. They tell me to cuff up again. I tell them, I told you, man. So I go through 3 cans of spray, and then they put this thing on my door, man. They call it the X10 penetrator. It's got like a tube, it looks like a silencer of a gun, and they stick it through your tray slot and they clamp it to your tray slot, and it's got like a fire extinguisher and whatever's in that shit. Dude, they told me, man, Vanderhurt, last chance. And when they hit the button on that thing and that thing popped off in my room, bro, it sucked the air out the room. I mean, I immediately gave up, man. So even if you gave up, I was like, I couldn't even breathe. Had breathed in so much, OC spray. So, anyways, they come in, they jump on me anyway with the SWAT team. They drag me off to the hole. I go to the hole. Well, the next morning, I had just fished some coffee in on a fishing line, you know. So I fished the coffee in, and I'm still burning from the, you know, from the OC spray the day before, man. I'm walking around the room burning, man, and I look out the window and I see the SWAT team going back towards the building that I had just got rolled out of. Well, it turns out this dude came back the next day. So his claim, his story, he went home that night and he said that he thought about retaliation from my homeboys. So this fool brings a knife into the maximum security prison, a Bowie knife, and he brings it in the maximum security prison. Well, you know, then he goes back in, and I guess he tells the inmates that this is my mod, and he goes, you F with me, you gonna get what your boy got, right? Yelling this to the mod, like this is my mod. Anyway, so there's this Samoan kid named Sino, and he's standing out, you know, out right outside his window or outside of his door to his room, and he's just watching TV, the community TV up on the wall, and he's just standing there minding his own business. And this dude walks to do his walk, you know, to do his check, and he comes up on Sino and he's like, "Move." And all you got to do is take one step around him. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not in his way at all. And the dude's like, "Move." And Sino was like, "Man, go around." The dude's like, "I said move." And Sino and him just starts boxing, right? Him and the cop. Well, everybody comes out on the tier and starts watching what's going on. And him and Sino are throwing hands. You know what I'm saying? Well, then all of a sudden they realize that Sino's trying to get away from him. And then they see that this fool had Sino's collar to his state uniform. And this fool had a big old Rambo Bowie knife in his hand, and he's trying to stab Sino with the knife. So these two white boys from two other cliques, man, they come down, running down, trying to get the knife away from the cop. And they're beating the brakes out of the cop, trying to get the knife away from him. And the cop stabs my homeboy, misses his heart, but punctured his lung. And then he stabbed my other boy in the back, in the stomach, and cut his whole thigh in half, like it flayed the whole side of it, like a big ass gash in his leg. And you know, and they're able. Well, the dude, he finally gets towards the door, and his last thing he says, and this is the type shit that goes on up here, man. Last thing he says is he gets out the door as the police in the bubble get the slider open. He says, "I kill all of you bitches," and throws the knife in the mod like he's gonna set the inmates up with the knife. So they take the knife, the other guards, and this is why we end up winning the case, man. Because the other guards, they go in there, swoop the knife up, and put a big pen in the place of the knife and say that this fool defended himself with the pen. And they get rid of the knife, right? So they immediately box us all up. They charge them dudes.
Crazy story, bro. This is absolutely nuts.
Yeah. And it's so great. What's even crazier part is how they swept it under the rug. And the only people that ever get in trouble is us. Like, you know what I'm saying? And they do this shit all day and get away with it. You know what I'm saying? And this is just like one of 100 stories I can tell you that's involved in.
Listen, does the cop get arrested? Does he go to prison?
No. They took his job. Okay, so up here we have the ACOA, the Alaska Correctional Officer Association, which is the union for the cops, right? So anyways, so they charge all three of them dudes with attempted homicide on a CO, and they charge me, I'm already in the hole, and they charge me with 2 assaults, new crimes on the street for it, right? Saying I ordered a hit on him. So me and these dudes stay in the hole for 3 years. We're in segregation, like public enemy number 1. All the police hating on us. Everybody thinks they think I'm super dangerous because they think I ordered the hit. And we're sitting in there fighting for our lives, and we're trying to get lawyers to pick the case up, all this stuff, and no lawyer would even take the case. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how powerful Department of Correction is up here, man. So they wouldn't even take the case. So, you know, all of us are just the average thug. You know what I'm saying? We're not book smart like you. You know, that's why I admire your story, man. You went in there, you learned your shit, and you fought back and you got yourself out and you got other inmates out. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's actually what Mike did. The one that got his leg cut in half, he ends up, we're all in segregation, and right in the middle of the mod, they had like a chain link box. They had the law library in it. And every day that fool, after the lawyers, every lawyer that we could contact, man, said, "Oh man, I can't take that case or whatever." So every one of them, man, said no. And Mike, there was another cat in there. He had been in there. He was a juvenile murderer. He'd been in there a long time, but that cat was pretty savvy in the legal beagle stuff. You know what I'm saying? So he ends up taking Mike, and Mike went in there, man, and he fought the case and he won, man. They immediately released after 3 years. Me, Dustoff, and Sino let us out. Mike still had some time to do on a 25-year sentence, but he fought. They ended up paying him an undisclosed amount of money, and and paid all the hospital bills and all that extra stuff. But the only thing that happened to that cop, man, and the reason why the case got won in the first place is because, so this dude, he loses they fire him out of DLC for it, right? He doesn't get no criminal charges or nothing. Well, they fired him like 2 days before his pension kicked in. So the Alaska Officers Correctional Union, they talked this dude into going into the paper and telling his side of the story in the public paper up here. So he goes in and he tells this long, drawn out story of how he was this super victim and all this stuff. And then he makes the mistake of saying this. He says, I got into it with an unruly inmate that happened to be the leader of a security threat group. That's me. He said he went home that night and thought long and hard about retaliation before he decided to bring a knife to defend himself. He says, if I wouldn't have had that knife, then I surely would have been killed. Now, remember, his so-called brothers in arms, they done destroyed the knife and put a pen in the place of the knife, and all of them said they seen him with a pen. And this fool throws his own people under the bus and says, I brought a knife. And they're like, where's the knife? And that was it. And they just boxed up the whole case, let everybody out, like no harm, no foul. Like 3 years of my life in constant, like, like it didn't mean nothing. This fool went out to California, wherever he went. I heard he went to California, went out there and lived his life while, 4 of us sat in segregation, just getting our rights violated, getting treated like pieces of shit by the police. Man, it was a crazy thing.
Sounds to me like you were more against the cops. You weren't really with against other prisoners. You were more like, look, man, we're not getting what we got. You're oppressing us, and I'm going hard, on that. Is that kind of what your story is?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is we did have, turmoil between factions up here, but there wasn't a lot of turmoil between factions as much as, DOC is rightfully a gang. Dude, they ride for each other. You know what I'm saying? They lie for each other. And that's just what it is. And it's your word against theirs. And you ain't winning that shit, man. You know what I mean? I just wrote a piece in the paper, man. I just wrote a piece in the paper a couple years back. This CO, we had this DOC commissioner up here that came in, and he started trying to change shit. And he started taking a different approach towards the inmates and opening up programs and things like that for gang members. That's why I ended up getting my life together. You know what I'm saying? Because the dude gave me a chance to go to these programs, right? Well, this guy named Mike Dingman, he wrote you can read it, it's in the papers, you know what I mean? So he writes this thing saying that the commissioner, basically, that all the CO's lives are in danger, and that this commissioner sits up in his high horse up inside the office somewhere and doesn't know what's going on in the front lines, and that and I'm reading this shit and I'm like, bullshit. So I write this op-ed and it gets published. And I'm like, you want to talk about feeling unsafe? Let's talk about Larry Kobuck that came into jail with handcuffs on and got beat to death by the cops. Nobody ever seen a day of jail time. Let's talk about Kelsey Green, begged for detox protocol, died of dehydration in her room in front of the call button trying to get the cops in to help her, found her in there rigor mortis. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about Devin Mosley that got sent over when they shut down API, the API center up here, that came over. He has a mental illness, and they treated him like he was mentally ill. He didn't know what was going on, and they had shut the mental hospital down up here for a while, and they sent all them people into the jail. And them dudes coming in jail, and they're not criminals. They're there's something wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? And they ended up killing this dude, man, because they put him in a cell, man, in solitary confinement because he had to take medication and he was crazy, man. And they treated him like he did something wrong, and they ended up choking him out and killing him. You know what I'm saying? All of these unanswered deaths up here, dog. And anyway, so I wrote about this all in the paper, and I said like this. I said, you, it's always, I said, it's always the cops' side of the story. I said, and you want to talk about being trustworthy? I said, at any time, a cop could walk into my room, go into my room up here when they shake your room down. They put something over your room so you can't see what they're doing inside your room.
Same thing in the feds.
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? And I'm supposed to trust you? Now you done came in, brought a knife into the facilities and stabbed my homeboys, blamed it on all of us, and I'm supposed to trust you now, man, and all the stuff I've seen? So you're gonna tell me that you couldn't put that curtain up in my window, pull a little gram of cocaine out your pocket, turn around and say, Vanderhurst, what's this? And it's your word against mine. I can't fight it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how it is. So I wrote this op-ed, man, and it got a lot of coverage, man. You know what I'm saying? I said, the only thing that's going to stop that is video and audio that can't be tampered with by the police, and that an outside independent agency would review those cameras and also deal with grievances and the write-up process, because that would give a non-biased point of view to a situation. And I said, because of course a CO is going to ride with a CO. And they're no different. They want to point their fingers at people like we're all these big old gangs, when they ain't no different. They got bylaws, they got the whole shit, and they ride for each other. And and it's the same thing, man. So, like, needless to say, like, me and my wife are both justice reform advocates up here. We just now recently sat in a high-rise building up here with the lieutenant governor talking about making change for the inmates inside the prison system. And that's my big fight. It's like I got out of prison, but I didn't forget where I came from, and my hands back trying to grab homeboys and bring them up out of here, and I fight for their prisoner rights. We got a class action lawsuit up here right now, me and my wife, on the Securus telephone system, and them charging all this buku money for us to be able to talk to our families, man. You know what I mean? And we're doing pretty good on that, man. So, that's what we do now. But it all sparked, my passion for defense sparked from them, because it's like, it's supposed to be the Department of Corrections, man. You ain't supposed to, how am I, people go to prison and they're supposed to be worried about the other prisoners. I was never worried about the other prisoners. I was worried about my safety towards the cops. You know what I mean? So when Toby was talking about that, that's what he was talking about. Like the torment. When they put you in dry cell up here, they tape you when they think you got drugs. They put you in a room and they put you in a Vitec suit, and
Velcro
they
suit
tape
or the
no
Tyvek?
like a
The Tyvek.
Tyvek suit. Yeah, they put you in a Tyvek suit, and they use duct tape, and they tape your arms or so you can't take nothing out, and they tape your legs, and they put you in shackles and belly chains, and they leave you in there, and then you got to shit in front of them like that, and they leave you in there for days in this nasty ass room, poop and shit all over the place, and they don't let you use the bathroom. They're trying to get these drugs, and they think you got them, and you literally gotta, like, they'll like take one of your arms out of your thing, and then you gotta poop in front of them in this bag and give them the bag. They don't give you nothing to wash your hands, and then you're in there for days, man. And it's just like, and it's just torture, man. I'm telling you, man. There's a lot of little things that happen up here. Toby got it bad, man, one time, man. And I mean, they had him in there like 14 days or something, man. Maybe I'm speaking a little bit on the days. Yeah, it was a long time, man. And they had him in there and they were stressing him out. Like, and I don't know what you think. Like, you think you can poop on cue when you're stressed out in front of everybody, all these things, man. And dude, so I mean, I'm hella traumatized, man. I'm hella traumatized. I don't trust law enforcement because of this stuff. Um, I have a hard time.
Let me ask you this:
And
you ever think about getting out of Alaska? You ever worried about going back?
yeah, man. I mean, I also got a whole nother thing that goes on because when I started trying to change my life, change is change, homie. You know what I'm saying? So change is change, and as well as I do, change inside jail isn't a isn't a cool thing. Following God, reading the Bible ain't a cool thing. So when I started trying to change my life, it came to a point where like change is change. And if you're gonna change, then you need to change. So, I went to the homeboys and I was like, look, man, you know, I've been leading you. My wife said something to me in the very beginning of this, man. It stuck with me. When I first got a relationship with God, God's my dude, man. So I believe wholeheartedly in the Lord, and I live my life by that today. Um, I came on here and I wanted to talk to you uh, as who I was and who I am, but I also want to throw that in there that God changed my heart, my mind, and my life. You know what I mean? And He met me in the segregation when I was at my worst, man. And I reached out for help, and I didn't honestly think that it was real. You know what I'm saying? And I was met in that room, and God, over the next 10 years, changed my life drastically. Where I went from a bar of soap, I was in a room because I was a shot caller, but that was it. It was a tag. But the rest of my life had fell apart, and I had nothing, and I pushed away and broke every bridge I ever had, lied, cheated, stole, pushed everybody that ever loved me away, and I was absolutely alone in this one moment in my thing, and I just had this reckoning with myself, like, yo, and cried out to the Lord. But I cried out to the Lord without a real belief in my heart that anything would ever happen. I always thought it would be like that, especially after 30 years in a joint. But uh, I can honestly say today, um, He stepped in and took care of my life, man. You know what I mean? And I'm free today because of it. So, but I lost where I was saying something, but
It's all about
um
change and about prison. So pretty much, man. Look, man. You're
oh, but yeah, when I started to change, I went to the homeboys. My wife said in the very beginning of this, she said, "Do you love them dudes?" Because Toby's like I go there for that guy. That dude has always been loyal to me, man, and he's my friend, man. And he's one of the few homeboys that really listened to my guidance and did what I asked him to do. And he's living out in Cincinnati now, and his life is together in the Iron Workers program, all that shit. But majority of them didn't listen to me, and they started hating on me for it, right? But my wife told me in the beginning, and I want to say I'm a real dude, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't I There's really no cut on nothing that I say. You know what I'm saying? This is how I am. This is what I've been through. Um, and I got my little hat that says "Save Not Soft." I'm trying to get my shit together, but the old man is right there. You know what I'm saying? And I can get back to him quick if I needed to. You know, but my wife said this. She said, "You love them dudes?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Prideful. Hell yeah, I love my brothers, man. She's like, "You love them? They're really your family?" I said, "Yeah, man, my family." And she said, "Well, why do you preach a lifestyle that's going to get them killed or stuck in prison to your age?" She says, "If you had a great life," she said, "these dudes follow you, and you use your God-given gifts to flush these dudes down the toilet when you could get them out." And right there, I laid in my bed and I marinated on this shit, man. Because then the realness is that she spit some real game to me. Like, you are preaching a lifestyle to these dudes because I'm charismatic. I get the gift of gab. I was the very first dude in the Alaska system that had tattoos and looked like this, and I set off this whole genre. And then And it's a weight I still carry today. Like I got like a whole genre of dudes in my backpack that if I succeed, they get a chance. You know what I mean? Because if you're SDG, you don't go to no programs, you don't get no extras, no nothing, right? So if one of the worst can make it, if I can silence the critics and make it when everybody counted me out, then what are they going to say that at least there ain't at least one in them 100 people out of 100, that might make it, that should be afforded the opportunities that I was, because I took the shot and I ran with it, right? So, but I had to lay back and think about that, and in being a real and feeling that I'm a real cat, like the real is real, real recognizes real, and I had to say yes, I was being a part of the problem and destroying these dudes' lives. There's dudes that are doing life in prison now because of the shit I told them to do, or not told them to do, but the lifestyle that I was preaching and glamorizing, and they're never getting out of jail ever again. So I feel that weight. So, anyways, man, so at that moment, I went to the homeboys and I said, listen, man, I've been being a bad leader, man. I've been doing this, and it's, you know, and like I said, doesn't go over too well. Everybody wants to, I went to a faith mod. I moved down to a faith wing. I started getting into the word. God started working on my heart. And then the whole time as I'm doing that, I've never done nothing wrong. I didn't debrief. I didn't tell on somebody. I didn't do nothing. I just moved down to the faith mod to appease my chick. I didn't even really believe wholeheartedly in God. I was just going down there because I was just running around the mods with my homeboys getting high all day. You know what I'm saying? And my wife was about to leave me. And, and I'm about to do 12 years in prison. And I'm just like, so I went to the faith mod to like kind of like get my wife off my back, right? But when I went down there, as I went down there and I started reading the word of God and growing up without really like a father figure as much, I didn't really have a good relationship with my stepfather when I was a kid. So I kind of grew up in a place where I didn't feel like I had that fatherly figure. And, so when I started reading the Bible, I started hearing like a father genuinely telling his son how to live a life that was fulfilling and how to be kind and have some self-control and love and all these things, right? So I started adapting it. And as my friends and homeboys started to turn their back on me, there was a moment of loneliness where I'm just like, dude, they're murder mouthing me. I ain't did shit wrong, man. I'm the reason why these dudes run around and throw this shit up, And so I had a bout with my pride where I'm sitting there and I just want to go lace these dudes up. But if I do that, then I run the risk of catching another charge and staying away from this lady that I love. So it was this double-edged sword. If I please them, I lose her. If I please her, I lose them. So, man, there was a moment of turmoil in my life where I just was like, I was lost, and I found my solace in the word of God. And I heard him just saying, do what I asked you to do, and I'll give you a life. You know what I'm saying? So as my friends started showing their characteristics, the real them, and how easily they jump ship on me and turn their backs to me, it started like I started getting this weight, like, thank you God that this happened and I didn't catch a murder beef with one of you dudes and then find out you really weren't my homeboy when you took the stand on me or something. Because if you folded up on me that quick, oh man, we would have been in some real stuff. You'd have folded up on me. You know what I'm saying?
That's the
So
Carl. I think that's the message today, man. It's like, look, man. Sometimes the people that you think are loyal to you, they're only loyal to you. When it really benefits them, I guess you could say, right?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You talking about being a wrong leader and turning your life around. I used to say that, man. Show me your leader, I'll tell you about your people. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you did turn your life around. I think that is a message for people today to hear that. And
Yeah.
before we're gonna get ready to go, but before we go, is there anything you want to say, man, before we end? Or do you feel like
Man,
you said it all? 'Cause I feel like you said
I,
a lot.
yeah. So I'll just say this, man. Pardon, man. Uh, this goes out. This goes out to the addict that suffers, man. You know, there's hope and there's peace and there's redemption. Uh, but it doesn't come without hard work, man. You know what I'm saying? You want your life to get better? take the steps, man up to and fight, and don't ever tap. And then to the homeboys, to them people that are struggling with that homeboy, with them homeboy friendships, with that gang, with the gang stuff and all that stuff, man. Like, really evaluate: are you being a good brother? Are you doing something is furthering your brother's well-being? Or are you doing something to step in the way of that? You know what I'm saying? And causing harm to somebody you claim to love. And there really ain't no point in not paying attention to the people that really, really, really care about you and love you in your life, you know? And I just say at the end, it is never over until you tap, man. 30 years in prison. If you would have told me 10 years ago that I could have the life I have today, I said bullshit, you know? But today, the Lord has given me life. And that's what my big message is at the end of the day, get a relationship with God, man. And follow the principles. We want to follow precepts, being gang members and stuff. We follow precepts. Follow the precepts of that. Even if you don't fully understand or believe in the word, go in there and read that game, because that'll put you on the map. For real, for real.
Listen, man, I definitely appreciate you coming on, sharing your stories, your experiences. I know you got a little TikTok thing going on. Do you know what that is? What your links are?
Yeah, it's tatted grandma and grandpa. It's me and my wife share the page, and then we're Terry and Carl Vandenherk on Facebook.
I'm gonna share your TikTok. Tell people to go check you out. Listen, man, I appreciate you coming on. You said some real shit, man. You know, coming from a guy that was a leader, a guy that is a leader, and you know, sometimes, man, we lead people the wrong way, but there's also some dudes that you can lead the right way, like you talked about Toby. I know the dude's doing great, man. I'm happy for him. Had him on here. That dude's been through some shit. You've been through some shit. But, you know, maybe your story will resonate with some people, man. So I'm just going to tell people, man, if you go ahead.
I was just going to say before we go, man, I just want to say, man, I really respect you, man. I really respect that you went and you fought for yourself and you learned and you turned around and fought for other people, man. I watched some of your stuff, man. I just want to, give you a shout out, man. Say, man, I respect that, man. That's real, and good job, man.
Listen, man, I wasn't always a nice guy, just like you. You know what I mean? It took me probably about 8, 9 years, 10 years to turn my life around, but I did the same thing, bro. And you know what? I fought to get out, and I definitely appreciate you. And tell people, man, if you like what we're doing, hit that like button. With respect, blow down the Razor Wire TV. Until tomorrow, we're out.